Chapter 2, Portrait of the Colonized. In our last video, we looked at the colonizer, a man of privilege, contradictions, and lies. But to truly understand colonization, we need to flip the perspective. What about the colonized? How does living under constant domination, inequality, and humiliation shape a person's life, their psychology, their very identity? That's exactly what Albert Memmi explores in Chapter 2 of The Colonizer and the Colonized, the Portrait of the Colonized. And let me warn you, this chapter is raw, it's painful, and it's essential. Part 1, The Condition of the Colonized. Memmi starts by describing the everyday reality of colonized life. The colonized live in poverty. Their homes are smaller, their jobs are harder, their pay is lower. They are pushed into the margins, socially, politically, and economically. Every institution is designed to remind them that they are inferior. Think about it. The colonized are denied the same education, excluded from high-paying professions, and constantly reminded that their culture, their language, their traditions are considered backward. The colonized, in short, live in a world where everything is taken from them, not just their land and labor, but their dignity and sense of worth. Part 2, The Colonized as Other. Memmi explains that colonization is not just about stealing resources. It's about defining identity. The colonizer needs the colonized to appear inferior because his own sense of superiority depends on it. That means the colonized are constantly portrayed as lazy, childish, violent, or primitive. The colonized do not get to define themselves. They are defined by the colonizer. And the danger is that over time, they may start to believe it. Imagine growing up hearing every single day that you are less than human. What would that do to your self-image? Part 3, Humiliation and Dependence. One of the most devastating effects of colonization, Memmi says, is the cycle of humiliation. The colonized are reminded daily of their lower status. They see the colonizer's wealth and comfort, knowing it is built on their own exploitation. They are told they are incapable of progress, and yet every opportunity for progress is denied to them. It's a trap. The colonized are made to depend on the colonizer for work, for survival, even for recognition. And this dependence deepens their sense of powerlessness. Memmi calls this a form of internalized oppression, when the colonized start to measure themselves by the colonizer's standards and inevitably feel like failures. Part 4, The Colonized Dilemma. Now, here's where things get really complex. The colonized, Memmi argues, are caught in a dilemma. On one hand, they might try to assimilate, to become more like the colonizer. They might learn the colonizer's language, adopt his customs, even try to reject their own traditions. But assimilation never works. Why? Because the colonizer will never fully accept them. No matter how much the colonized try to become like the colonizer, they will always be marked as inferior. On the other hand, the colonized might reject the colonizer completely, embracing their own identity, culture, and traditions as a form of resistance. But this too comes with a price. Rejection can mean isolation, poverty, and the impossibility of advancing in a system rigged against them. So the colonized live in a double bind. Assimilation leads to rejection, resistance leads to punishment. Every path seems blocked. Part 5, Internal Conflict. This double bind produces a deep psychological conflict. The colonized feel shame for who they are, because that's what the colonizer teaches them. But they also feel shame for wanting to be like the colonizer, because it means betraying themselves. They are constantly split in two, between the desire to belong to the world of privilege and the reality of being excluded from it, between pride in their own culture and the pressure to reject it. This inner war creates bitterness, anger, and often despair. Part 6, The Seeds of Revolt. But Memmi also sees something else growing in this soil of humiliation: resistance. The colonized may begin to reject the lies of the colonizer. They may revalue their own culture, reclaim their traditions, and see through the myth of inferiority. And when enough people refuse the colonizer's definition of them, the conditions for revolt are born. So ironically, the very oppression that seeks to crush the colonized also plants the seeds of liberation. The colonizer's domination creates its own gravediggers. Conclusion: Portrait of the Colonized. So, how does Memmi portray the colonized? Economically exploited and socially marginalized, defined as other, stripped of dignity and forced into dependence. torn between the impossible choices of assimilation and rejection, living with deep internal conflict, but also carrying within them the seeds of resistance. This portrait is tragic, but it's also a reminder. Oppression cannot last forever. The colonized may be humiliated, but they are never completely broken. And that's chapter 2 of Albert Memmi's The Colonizer and the Colonized. We've seen how colonization doesn't just control people's lives, it invades their very sense of self. But we've also seen how resistance begins to grow out of that struggle. In the next video, we'll explore chapter 3, The Two Answers of the Colonized, where Memmi digs into the actual strategies colonized people use to respond to their oppression. If this breakdown gave you insight, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Do you think assimilation or rejection is the stronger response to colonization? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.